So if I'm a little wheezy, it is because of that. I have a missing persons case for you tonight, and we're going to Canada. We're going to Goderich, Canada. Might have said that wrong. Goderich, Canada. On the shores of Lake Huron in southwestern Ontario. It was founded in 1827, and the picturesque seat of rural Huron County has grown to a little over 7,000 residents. Goderich bills itself Canada's prettiest town. Born on October 28th, 1978, the subject of our video tonight, Mistie Murray, had reddish-brown hair and grayish-green eyes. Her birth mother, Darlene Oldfeld, led a turbulent life, moving an average of every 2 months during her years with her daughter. In 1980, she gave the girl up for adoption, and Mistie lived in foster homes until just before her 5th birthday, when she was adopted by Stephen and Anne Murray. Now her childhood with the Murrays suggested a stable home environment. Mistie performed well in school. She became a gregarious, outgoing child. However, at age 13, her grades began to slide, and by the time she started secondary school, she was acquiring an uncertain reputation among her peers. Oh, I'm so sorry. Although she did remain popular. But the trauma of those early years in Mistie's life started to rise to the surface during her early teenage years. Starting 2 years before she disappeared, Mistie really just began to struggle. Her grades and her schoolwork declined. She placed her trust in strangers, engaging in promiscuous activity, and starting a sexual relationship just days before she left home. The Murrays were anxious to help their daughter, and they had arranged to reunite Mistie with her biological mother, hoping that this connection would add some stability into Mistie's life. But their good intentions really may have had the opposite effect. On her school notebooks, Mistie began to add a second signature to her work, Mistie Oldfield. When Anne Murray was interviewed, she said she needed a psychiatrist, and I didn't know it. She was in a great emotional crisis at this time. The last day that 16-year-old Mistie Murray spent in her Goderich home started off like so many others she had spent there with the Murrays. On the morning of May 31st, 1995, the 5'3", 115-pound girl with the reddish-brown hair and blue-green eyes, whose face has since graced the back of credit card bills and trucks, set out for Goderich District Collegiate Institute. And I cannot speak today. Rewind. Set out for Goderich District Collegiate Institute. She was wearing red shorts, black boots, and perhaps a green jacket with Mistie on the left sleeve, and a crest reading Seaforth Girls Trumpet Band. She was seen at school that day, attending classes and visiting the nurse. Bubbly and outgoing to the point that it may have put her at risk, Mistie wore rings on every single finger that day, and she had 5 piercings in her right ear, but only 2 in the left. Her friends didn't remember that she had any earrings in that day. Now, in her room, Mistie had left behind a packed suitcase, and on her dresser, $200 and dozens of photos. A prelude of what was supposed to be a trip to one single officer was asked to investigate Mistie Murray's disappearance. Part-time. Potential evidence wasn't collected. Interviews were incomplete, and so delayed that people's memories faded. Godric police did not have a policy or procedure in place to effectively and efficiently investigate this missing persons case. York police wrote later in an audit ordered by the civilian agency that oversees the police in Ontario. So, the day after Missy was reported missing or last seen at home, her friend Sarah Crawford spoke to her in a bargain shop in Godric. The store fronts the octagonal park that centers Godric and lends it a sense of grace and order. This shop is also within sight of the Godric Police Department. But while police questioned Crawford about her encounter, her story didn't fit the theory of what happened. But they didn't interview anyone else in the store either. 3 teenagers who knew Mistie told police that they thought that they saw her walking the next day, June 2nd, along Highway 8 from Godric to Clinton. Another teen from the same marching band as Mistie said she spotted her in the crowd at the Clinton Fair on June 3rd, wearing the green Seaforth band jacket. Over the next 2 weeks, there were at least 20 reported sightings of Mistie Murray, or a teenager who looked like her, in London. She was reported seen near Dundas and Glebe streets, hanging out with the tough-looking street kids. So, there is something worse than burying your child. Something harder than holding the hand of the child whose first act was just to squeeze your finger. Just ask Stephen and Anne Murray, who mourned Mistie without knowing what became of her. Their uncertainty in the product of the investigation that was bungled by police. It would be more than a year before the Murrays would learn all of the people who reported seeing their daughter in the weeks after she left home. And by this time, they had a new trauma to deal with. When the minimal investigation by the Godric police turned up no answers, Ontario Provincial Police took over, and they set their sights on Stephen Murray. They charged him with murder. The case against Stephen Murray was built on an observation of a couple who thought they saw him about 7 p.m. on May 31st, taking a young woman to the family boat in a marina at Godric Harbor. The OPP, or the Ontario Provincial Police, I can't remember if that's right, came up with a theory. Stephen Murray had taken Mistie out on their boat to the middle of Lake Huron, killed her, and dumped her in water so deep at the bottom of the frigid lake it would keep her from decomposing and floating to the surface. But their theory had a pretty fatal flaw. Police said that Steve Murray needed 2 hours to travel to the middle of the lake, but 5 witnesses reported seeing him elsewhere between 7:15 p.m. and 9 p.m. Their accounts supported his contention that he arrived at the marina alone and had gone on a brief outing. A jury would quickly reject the police theory at a trial 2 years later. But despite Murray's acquittal, police continued to pursue him with no OPP investigation concluded that investigators had been sloppy and so fixed on nailing Stephen Murray that they had neglected to thoroughly investigate other suspects. The case against Steve Murray could only be described as weak, York police wrote. So, police never came close to explaining what happened to Mistie or who might be responsible for her disappearance. But their conduct had a great impact. Steve Murray, ostracized by many in Godric, left town and took a job driving a truck. And Anne Murray set out to do what police had not, finding her daughter. But even with the help of Child Find with the trail cold, her search was just filled with more frustration than promise, more heartache than hope. While there were reported sightings across Canada of women who bore some resemblance to Mistie, their accounts were just too general to be of any help. But then, in the first few months of 2001, there was a report of a woman in Vancouver whose appearance and background were strikingly similar to Mistie. Child Find said they were 99% positive that they have seen Mistie Murray using an alias and regularly accessing youth services in the downtown area south of Vancouver, wrote two people who emailed their sightings to the Free Press. Saying they were bound by confidentiality, they appeared to work for social service agencies running homeless programs along Granville Street. On September 25th, 2001, police phoned. They had a photo from a social agency in Vancouver. 4 days later, Anne Murray was waiting in her cottage. Two officers came in, one of them carrying a folder. He reached inside this folder, he pulled out a photo, and he put it on the table in front of Anne Murray. The long face, bronze skin, hair pulled to the side. For a moment, Anne Murray thought she was seeing her daughter. But the eyes were too big, and the bridge of the nose too wide. 6 years of searching and sacrifice had been enough. Anne Murray and her family said goodbye to Mistie in a church service November 10th of 2000. Anne said, "It is time to put Mistie and our suffering back in God's hands." In 2002, after the incident with the photograph, the Murrays launched a suit against the investigating police for malicious prosecution and failure to disclose evidence. Stephen Murray passed away in 2018 without ever knowing what happened to his daughter. A reward of $25,000 has been posted for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons involved in the disappearance and or death of Mistie Murray. Anyone with that information is asked to contact the local Ontario Provincial Police at 1-888-310-1122. We may never know for certain what happened to Mistie Murray, but she remains one of Canada's most infamous missing persons cases and one of Ontario's most frustrating cases of investigative mishandling. I can't. Okay, so the police were really genuinely thinking, sorry, my computer is so loud, that she ran off, like, with her biological mother or whatever. I honestly don't think that that was the case. Here's why. She had just started this relationship with this guy. Granted, she's 16, but why start a relationship if you're running off? If she was gonna run off, why didn't she take the suitcases? Like, police really said that they think that those were kind of like a ploy, like they were left there to make whether she was biological or not. Like, you don't have to birth a baby to love it. So I think it was completely ridiculous that people were like scorning them for searching for this daughter that wasn't really theirs. Like, who says that to people? And it was completely absurd to me that they went after the father so far as he went to jail, he went to trial. Like, that was completely crazy to me. I couldn't find much more about that boat ride that he took, as far as, you know, did anybody have any proof? I mean, this was back in the 90s, so there wasn't so much CCTV footage to see him getting on the boat, but they saw him other places between 7:15 and 9 p.m., so he clearly wasn't out in the middle of the lake dumping a body. And if they thought she was in the middle of the lake and that he dumped her there, why didn't they dredge that lake? Now, granted, it is a very big lake. Excuse me. But, you know, isn't there like sonar equipment or something that they could use? I feel like after all this time it would have floated. So I think that is absolutely absurd to think about. And terrible that he died without knowing whatever happened to his daughter. I didn't find any information on whether Anne Murray was still alive, searching for Mistie, but I feel like she must be, or I would have found it somewhere. This is another one of those cases where people just go missing, and I have to wonder if it's human trafficking or, you know, something like that. I really couldn't find any information about, like, the boyfriend being questioned, which, you know, we always lean towards the boyfriend, but she'd only been with him like a couple of days, so I feel like that might have been a bigger deal had they been together a longer amount of time. But I was really in the mood for like a non-gruesome case this evening. My work wife's husband passed away on Thursday. It's Saturday now, and like, he was a really good person, and having had people in my life pass away, I'm having a really hard time, like, knowing what she's going through, and I want to reach out to her, but I don't really know what to say. So I thought a missing persons case would kind of get my mind off of it. It worked for a little while, so thank you guys so much for continuing to be here on my channel. We are soon, hopefully, going to reach 6,000 subscribers. I have considered doing, have you guys ever seen those videos, the Draw My Life videos, where people get like the dry erase board and they like draw their life, like, you know, tell you the story. But I don't know if anybody would be interested in that, and I'm also really bad at drawing, so it would be many stick figures. So if it's not that, I'll have to come up with something. We really haven't done like a good old-fashioned Q&A here on my channel in a really long time. We did one on Patreon that ended up being like an hour long, I don't know, like 6 months ago or something. So that was kind of fun. I hate it when I have something and then it goes away. Anyway, please comment down below if you're still listening to me ramble. I would love to know what kind of case you would like to see here on the channel next week. Do you want an unsolved case? Do you want a missing persons? Do you want a solved case? I know sometimes these unsolved, like, missing person cases really fry people's cookies, and I totally get it, because sometimes I just need to know what happened. And if you're still listening, did you guys see that I'm gonna turn you just a little because I feel like I'm out of the shot for half of this. They found she was like a 911. I can't remember, I think her name was Courtney. She was like a 911 operator, and that case really focuses on like a 911 call. I don't think I'll cover the case until it has been officially released that it is him, but his like longtime girlfriend, mother of his 4 kids, says that they really believe that it is him. Like in their hearts they believe that it is him. So I'm glad for some closure for her, because I think that case has been a long time, like 8 or 10 years or something. But sad, still the same. So if you want me to cover that case, let me know down below, and I can cover it once everything has been official. Oh, sometimes my words.